A soft, salt-laden breeze rolled across the sleepy harbor, lifting stray wisps of hair from her cheek as she tightened her grip on the scuffed canvas handle of her carry-on. Her name was Claire Bennett, a girl of quiet mornings and hand-washed coffee mugs, raised among rows of corn and gravel backroads 1,000 miles from the nearest tide. Hawaii had always existed in her imagination as a postcard, cerulean surf, fire-rimmed sunsets, lazy palms, but never as a place her own feet would tread. The trip had been spontaneous. A friend from college, now working as a diving instructor, had pleaded for her to come visit. "The islands will fix your winter mood," the friend had promised. Claire scraped together overtime pay, booked a budget flight, and promised herself at least a week of sunshine. She expected hostels, small cafes, bus rides, never polished teak decks or silk-lined cabins. Morning at the marina buzzed with the mingled scents of sunscreen and diesel. Dock hands whistled to one another, gulls fought for crusts near the trash cans. Claire, a touch jet-lagged, followed the printed address on her phone, weaving between gleaming hulls that rose like whitewashed cliffs. Somewhere along the pier, a sign had been removed for repainting. Somewhere else, a line of tourists blocked the view. She turned left instead of right, hardly noticing the error. A deckhand in a navy polo spotted her hesitating near a pristine gangway. "Miss Bennett," he called, eyes scanning a clipboard. She blinked, her surname said with such certainty. She nodded before her mind caught up. "Yes, that's me," she said, voice instinctively polite. "Perfect timing, ma'am," he smiled, taking her bag. "We were just about to cast off." And so, with no more ceremony than boarding a city bus, she stepped onto the wrong vessel. Inside, the yacht's hush was immediate. Plush white seating curved along a teak deck that gleamed like polished honey. Chrome railings caught sunlight like scattered diamonds. Claire's sneakers squeaked faintly as she crossed toward a shaded bench, pulse fluttering. She thought, absurdly, that her friend's boat day looked far more extravagant than expected. The engines thrummed alive. Ropes flopped, gulls scattered, water churned frothy behind the stern. Only when the shoreline began sliding backward did Claire's brain whisper that something here was profoundly wrong. Footsteps approached. Measured. Unhurried. She turned to see a man, maybe mid-30s, crisp linen shirt unbuttoned at the collar, dark sunglasses balanced on his head. Tanned, tall, expression curious rather than stern. "I don't believe we've met," he said, voice warm with restrained amusement. I might be on the wrong boat," Claire blurted. He chuckled, tilting his head toward the retreating pier. "Technically, we're already moving. Wrong or not, you're part of the crew now." Her cheeks flushed. "I swear I thought this was," my friend said. "No need to explain," he interrupted gently. "Accidents happen. Let's make the best of it, shall we?" The kindness in his tone disarmed her. He extended a hand. "Alexander Hale." She shook it, words tumbling out. "Claire Bennett. And I really am sorry." "Claire," he repeated as though testing the syllables. "Well, Claire, welcome aboard." By mid-morning, embarrassment had softened into tentative curiosity. Alex, she soon learned everyone called him that, was indeed the yacht's owner, though owner barely captured the story. He was the inheritor of a shipping empire stretching from Singapore to Seattle, though wealth sat on him lightly. He spoke more of favorite surf breaks and the challenge of learning slack key guitar than of corporate boards. Claire admitted the mistake repeatedly, offering to reimburse fuel, to signal the harbor patrol, to do anything to turn around. Alex waved it off. "We were heading out for 3 days anyway," he said, "and there's a spare cabin. Stay, enjoy the ocean. When we dock again, we'll sort everything." She hesitated. Her friend would worry, but her phone already buzzed with spotty service. A quick text, "Plans changed, safe, will explain," bought her breathing room. The alternative was shamefully asking to be ferried ashore like cargo. The sea's wide sparkle, the intoxicating scent of salt and plumeria, nudged her decision. By noon, The yacht slid past emerald cliffs veined with waterfalls. Claire stood at the bow, wind tangling her ponytail, stomach fluttering with a thrill she couldn't name. Alex joined her, holding out a chilled glass of guava juice. "To wrong turns," he toasted. "To wrong turns," she echoed, smiling. The hours spilled like sunlight through gauze. Crew members, professional yet unobtrusive, prepared delicate platters of fresh fruit and poke. Claire wandered through the cabin, marveling at art books, woven mats, and the quiet hum of luxury. Alex, noticing her fascination, offered snippets. "That photographs from my last trip to Kyoto, that sculpture's driftwood pulled from a Maui tidapool." He spoke as though wealth were an afterthought, not a badge. By sunset, the Pacific glowed copper. Alex suggested a swim, tossing her a spare swimsuit from a guest drawer. Hesitant laughter gave way to exhilaration as she plunged into water warmer than any pool back home, the yacht bobbing nearby like a gentle guardian. Later, wrapped in a towel, she shared bits of her story: farm chores, waitressing, nights studying at a cramped library. Alex listened with real interest, elbows on knees, eyes intent. "I envy that," he admitted. "The groundedness. My world's noise." A dinner of grilled mahi-mahi unfolded on deck. Stars pricked the velvet sky as trade winds fluttered napkins. Conversation meandered from favorite childhood books to absurd travel mishaps. Claire noticed the way Alex's laugh softened when he leaned back, the way he deferred to crew with quiet respect. The first night passed in a blur of half-dreamed waves. Claire lay in a stateroom lined with pale oak, ceiling gently swaying, mind replaying his toast. To wrong turns. Day 2 dawned in molten rose. The yacht anchored near a crescent beach unreachable by road. Claire and Alex hiked a short trail fragrant with ginger. Birds chattered in ironwood trees. At a bluff overlooking tidal pools, they sat shoulder to shoulder, speaking of crossroads, his doubts about corporate succession, her search for a spark beyond routine. "I sometimes wonder," Alex said, tossing a pebble, "if I'm steering my life or just letting inertia drag me." She grinned faintly. "Then maybe mistakes are signposts." He looked at her as if the phrase lodged somewhere deeper than casual talk. That afternoon, they snorkeled over gardens of coral, parrotfish flashing like shattered rainbows. Claire squealed into her mask when a green sea turtle glided past, ancient and unhurried. Surfacing, she found Alex watching her delight more than the reef itself. Evenings became ritual. Mellow guitar from a Bluetooth speaker, a plate of sliced pineapple, the hush of horizon. Claire's initial nervousness faded, replaced by an ease she hadn't felt in months, maybe years. She caught herself laughing too freely, noticing his sidelong glances, the occasional brush of shoulders. By the third morning, the yacht traced a path toward Lahaina. Clouds draped Haleakala like silver scarves. Claire realized she no longer framed the experience as an error to correct. It had become a chapter unfolding with its own rhythm. They walked Lahaina's narrow streets, sampling malasadas, browsing art stalls. Alex teased her into trying shave ice piled taller than her fist. Tourists wandered obliviously, while beneath their light chatter a subtle current hummed, an understanding neither dared name. That night, anchored offshore, Claire stood alone at the rail. Starlight stitched diamonds across the swell. She thought of her quiet apartment, the spreadsheets waiting on her desk, the tiny life that, yesterday, had felt safe. Now it felt smaller. Alex joined her silently, hands braced on polished chrome. "Funny," he murmured, "how a wrong gangway can feel like the right door." She exhaled a shaky laugh. "And how a billionaire's yacht can feel oddly human." "Stay another day," he said softly, not as a command but a wish. She didn't answer immediately, just watched the moon carve a silver path. Somewhere inside, something loosened, like a knot unwinding. The final sunrise glimmered pale gold. Dock workers hailed, lines tightened, engines idled down. Claire packed her modest bag, fingers lingering on the smooth cabin rail. She sensed she was carrying home something invisible yet weighty, proof that life's map can be redrawn mid-journey. Alex walked her to the gangway, a half-smile playing at his lips. "I'd call this the most pleasant stowaway incident I've ever had," he teased. "Guess I owe you fuel money," she replied, lightness chasing her words. "Just promise you'll write," he said, voice gentling. She stepped onto the pier, shoes thudding on sun-baked planks, heart fuller than her suitcase. Behind her, the yacht bobbed, sails rustling like a farewell whisper. And as she crossed toward the waiting streets of Lahaina, Claire understood. Some mistakes aren't detours, they're invitations. The sea had opened a chapter she hadn't dared imagine. Whether it became love or remained a luminous memory, the tide had already etched its lesson. Sometimes fate waits, quiet and patient, at the wrong gangway. Claire lingered on the pier longer than she meant to, fingers still tingling from the last brush of Alex's hand. The morning sun poured molten light across Lahaina's waterfront, gilding fishing skiffs and storefront shutters. She inhaled deeply. Even the scent of drying nets seemed new, sharper. Her phone buzzed with her friend's worried text. She typed back quickly. "Safe. Long story. Tell you tonight." Then paused, realizing tonight no longer felt so certain. She found a cafe overlooking the water, ordered iced Kona coffee, and sat watching the yacht bob in the distance. Alex remained on deck, speaking with crew, a faint silhouette against the sky. Their accidental voyage might have been a closed bubble. Once she walked away, life would pull her back into schedules, small apartments, and practical shoes. Yet some invisible thread hummed, tugging her toward the sea. An hour later, her phone rang. "Alex." "Claire," his voice carried an easy warmth. "I'm provisioning for another run. Molokai, maybe Lanai. No pressure, but if you want to see more before you go home." He let the silence hang, seagulls crying faintly behind him. Her fingers traced condensation on the coffee glass. She thought of spreadsheets waiting in her email, of the sudden blank spaces in her calendar. "What time are you leaving?" 2 hours. A beat of laughter escaped her, half disbelief, half thrill. "Then I should pack sunscreen." By early afternoon she was back aboard, an unspoken agreement settling between them. The yacht eased away from Lahaina, slicing toward the channel where winds ruffled the Pacific into silver scales. Claire leaned on the rail, this time without guilt, her bag tucked neatly below. The Molokai crossing was choppier, spray salted her cheeks as flying fish darted like shards of sunlight. Alex stood beside her, explaining island lore, how the Kalaupapa cliffs once guarded a leper colony, how humpback whales migrate through these channels each winter. His voice softened when he spoke of heritage, of old Hawaiian chants still sung at dawn ceremonies. They anchored near an uninhabited cove by dusk. Lava cliffs towered above a strip of honey-colored sand, the jungle behind them murmuring with unseen life. Crew ferried dinner ashore, grilled shrimp, taro rolls, and chilled wine in sand-buried buckets. A bonfire crackled. Sparks spiraled into the velvet sky. Claire kicked off her sandals, toes sinking into cool sand. The stars above Molokai burned closer, brighter, as if some cosmic veil had thinned. Alex reclined on a blanket, guitar across his lap, plucking hesitant chords. "Not concert-worthy," he admitted, "but music's less about perfection, more about place." She listened, eyes on the embers, as his voice brushed the night, a simple island ballad, rough edges softening into melody. Time loosened its grip, the surf stitched a rhythm beneath their words. When flames sank to coals, they walked the Tittle barefoot. "You've changed the trip," Alex said quietly, gaze fixed on moonlit ripples. "How?" she asked. "You remind me why I bought the yacht, not for status, but for spaces like this. Moments where the world stops shouting." Her chest tightened, equal parts wonder and ache. Morning on Molokai shimmered blue and unhurried. Claire woke to the hush of waves, wandered into the surf alone, letting warm water lap her calves. From the yacht, Alex waved lazily, mug of coffee in hand. Later they explored sea caves where shafts of sun-pierced turquoise water, schooling fish swirling around them like living confetti. On deck, dripping salt, Claire laughed at her reflection. Wind-tangled hair, sun-flushed cheeks, nothing like the careful office version of herself. Alex leaned near, towel draped over one shoulder. "You belong out here more than you realize." She met his gaze, heartbeat stumbling. "And you, maybe you're braver than the boardroom allows." The conversation trailed into quiet, comfortable and unforced. A squall brushed the channel on the way to Lanai, rain streaking across an otherwise polished afternoon. They retreated to the main cabin, playing cards on the mahogany table as thunder murmured beyond the portholes. Between hands, Claire told him about childhood winters when the wind howled around the farmhouse, about the thrill of mail-ordered books. Alex countered with stories of chaotic charity galas, of learning to drive a boat before he could parallel park. Lightning forked once, briefly etching their laughter in silver. When the rain eased, the ocean steamed under sudden sun. A rainbow arced, startlingly vivid. Alex glanced at her, eyebrows lifted. "Omen." "Invitation," she corrected, smiling. Days blurred in hues of jade and sapphire. They explored Lanai's lunar rock gardens, hiked to sweet-scented groves, sampled poke bowls from roadside shacks. Each evening the conversation stretched longer. Hopes, fears, family histories laid bare in salt-soft moonlight. Alex spoke of an empty penthouse back in San Francisco, of friends too polite to speak truth. Claire admitted her quiet restlessness, the nagging sense she was meant to live more widely. Their closeness remained unhurried yet undeniable, a tide rising with no need to announce itself. One afternoon, while snorkeling a reef near Hulopoi Bay, Alex surfaced laughing, water streaming from his hair. "I can't remember the last time I had this much fun," he said, brushing seawater from his lashes. Claire floated nearby, suddenly aware of how deeply the moment had rooted itself. On the 7th day, they moored near a coffee plantation inland from Lanai City. Alex surprised her with a helicopter charter, sweeping them across ridgelines alive with emerald forests and hidden waterfalls. Claire clutched her headset, mouth open at vistas stretching to infinity. When they landed atop a wind-polished cliff, the horizon unrolled in cobalt and green. Alex unpacked a picnic: fresh papaya, sharp cheddar, crusty bread. "Here," he said, pouring sparkling water, "tell me the wildest thing you thought you'd never do." "Besides this," she teased, gesturing to the impossible view. "Yes, besides this." She considered. "I always dreamed of writing. Stories, maybe essays, but I was too scared to call myself a writer." "Then start," Alex said simply. "The world's big enough to hold your words." The breeze caught a strand of her hair. He tucked it behind her ear, fingers lingering only a second longer than casual. Back aboard that evening, Claire opened her travel journal, pages damp with humidity, and began writing. Not itineraries, but feelings. Salt wind on bare shoulders, the taste of guava, the fragile courage of new beginnings. She glanced toward Alex at the helm, silhouetted by the dying sun, and felt the hush of possibility pressing close. No declarations had passed between them, no promises carved in stone. Yet the Pacific kept offering horizons, and each mile felt like an unwritten chapter daring her to keep turning pages. The yacht's bow pointed toward Maui again, but Claire sensed her story had only begun. The island still stretched in every direction, waiting, luminous and unscripted. Somewhere out there lay more coves, more reefs, more quiet nights where words and laughter braided themselves into something that might, if they were brave, become love.